Sarah Williams sat on the edge of her bed, tears streaming down her cheeks as she clutched a photo frame to her chest. It was her wedding picture, she in a radiant white bridal gown, leaning against her husband, Daniel Kurt, their smiles glowing with love. Standing beside them in the photograph was Steve Anderson, her closest friend from university days, his eyes captured forever in a look of unspoken adoration as they rested on her. The memories of that day, once the happiest moment of her life, now tore at her heart. She traced her trembling fingers across the glass, as though trying to touch the joy that had slipped away. Just then, a soft chime broke the silence. Her phone, lying abandoned on the bed, lit up with a notification. With swollen eyes, Sarah reached for it. A message from Steve. He was finally coming back from abroad, his higher studies completed, and his flight was landing in the morning. "You must come to pick me up," he had written, almost insistently. Sarah wiped her tears with the back of her hand, staring at his words for a long moment before typing a simple reply, "Okay." She set the phone aside, exhaling a heavy sigh. Lying down, she closed her eyes, but sleep eluded her, her mind caught between memories of the past and the uncertainty of what tomorrow would bring. The morning sun was bright, but Sarah's heart felt heavier than ever. She had dressed in her usual formal attire, polished and elegant, the perfect image of a woman managing her father's empire. Yet today, her schedule was delayed. The office could wait. She had somewhere more important to be. At the airport, she stood waiting, her hands fidgeting with the strap of her handbag. A nervous anticipation buzzed in her chest. And then, there he was, Steve. Tall, broad-shouldered, familiar yet strikingly changed. His boyish charm had sharpened into a man's confidence. Expensive clothes hugged his well-built frame. His walk steady, his eyes carrying the same warmth she remembered, but now with a maturity she hadn't seen before. For a fleeting second, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "Sarah," Steve greeted softly, stopping right in front of her. She gave him a genuine smile, one that momentarily softened the weight on her heart. "Sorry if I made you wait," he said, brushing a hand through his hair. "You didn't," she replied quickly. "I just arrived." Steve studied her face for a moment before nodding. "Good. But before anything else, I need food. And coffee. Or this jet lag will kill me." Sarah hesitated. "Actually, I have a meeting in a while. No excuses today," he cut her off with a playful firmness. "You're coming with me." Without waiting for another word, he gently led her toward a nearby cafe. She followed, almost grateful for his insistence, though her stomach knotted with unease. Inside, they chose a quiet corner table. Orders placed, silence lingered until Steve leaned back, exhaling deeply. "Where's Daniel?" he asked casually. "I tried calling him, but his phone switched off." "He didn't come with you either." The air between them grew tense. Sarah froze. Her eyes dropped to the table, her fingers tracing the edge of the coffee cup that wasn't there yet. "I don't know," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Steve's brows furrowed. He didn't miss the crack in her tone, or the way she avoided his gaze. Sadness shadowed her features, pulling at something deep in his chest. Before he could press further, the waiter arrived with steaming cups and plates, breaking the silence. Sarah seized the chance, fumbling with a change of topic. But Steve wasn't fooled. "Sarah," he said firmly, his eyes locked on hers. "What's wrong?" She shook her head quickly. "Nothing. It's just, you're keeping secrets from your friend now?" His voice dropped lower, gentler, but edged with worry. "I won't let you walk out of here until you tell me everything." Her heart pounded. She could see the fear in his eyes, even if he tried to hide it. Fear of what he already suspected, that Daniel had something to do with her pain. Sarah sighed, shoulders slumping under the weight of memories she had tried so hard to bury. Her throat tightened as words hovered, waiting to spill. "I don't even know where to start," she murmured, staring at her trembling hands. "Start anywhere," Steve urged quietly. "I'm here." Her eyes shimmered, and finally, she let go, and with her voice breaking the silence, the story slipped into the past. It was the last year of college when a new transfer student arrived, Steve Anderson. Quiet, reserved, and almost invisible, Steve carried himself with a withdrawn air. An introvert through and through, he rarely spoke, preferring instead to lose himself in his books. His clothes were plain, his manner humble, and his time was divided between studies and the part-time job he held in the university's library. That morning, he entered the classroom quietly, clutching a worn-out notebook, and took his seat at the very back. Few noticed him. At the front of the class sat two of the university's most popular figures, Sarah Williams and Daniel Kurt. They were the pair everyone knew. Sarah, the top student for 3 years straight, elegant and admired. Daniel, the charming captain of the basketball team, wealthy, handsome, and notorious for being a flirt. Together, they looked like a picture carved for the spotlight. Their fathers were business partners, their riches matched, and the entire university seemed to believe they were destined for each other. The class began. The professor, as usual, threw a difficult question at the students. Whispers broke out, everyone struggled, even Sarah herself frowned in thought. And then, quietly, a hand rose at the back. Steve. He walked to the front with hesitant confidence, solved the problem with ease, and returned to his seat as if it meant nothing. The classroom fell silent. Shock and whispers followed him. Even Sarah found herself staring at him, intrigued. Who is this boy? She wondered. Time passed, but Steve's routine never changed. Study. Work. Silence. His classmates mocked him, Daniel and his friends leading the charge, calling him a nerd who had no life outside his books. He never responded, just kept his head down. But Sarah's curiosity lingered. She began noticing him in the library, sometimes scribbling furiously in his notes, other times arranging books with quiet focus. One day, out of necessity, she approached him for notes on a missed class. To her surprise, he handed them over without hesitation, not a word of complaint. That became the beginning. Slowly, a fragile thread of conversation grew between them. One afternoon, Sarah walked into the library with her usual cheerfulness. "Steve," she called softly, approaching his table. "Will you come to the basketball match this evening?" Steve looked up, blinking. "Why would I?" "For the sake of our friendship," she replied without missing a beat. "Friendship?" His lips quirked with dry amusement. "Since when are we friends?" Sarah grinned, extending her hand. "Since now." Before he could react, she clasped his hand firmly, her warmth lingering against his palm. 4 o'clock this evening. I'll be waiting. You must come. And just like that, she was gone, leaving him stunned, staring at the hand she had just shaken. His heart thudded strangely against his chest. He tried to brush it off. Why is she affecting me like this? Resolving not to overthink, he decided against going. But when he reached his class later, he found all lectures dismissed for the day, the campus buzzing for the intercollegiate basketball tournament. Even the library was closed. After much hesitation, he gave in. Maybe just watch for a while. The stadium roared with excitement. Steve slipped quietly into the crowd, hoping to remain unseen. But Sarah spotted him almost instantly. Her face lit up, and she hurried over. "You came!" she exclaimed, her smile wide with surprise. "I didn't think you actually would." Steve rubbed the back of his neck nervously. "Well, you said we're friends now, right?" He managed a small smile. "Good luck for the match." Her grin softened. She patted his shoulder lightly, the gesture casual to her, but not to him. His heart leapt again, beating faster than he could understand. "Thanks," she said warmly before dashing back to her cheerleading team. Steve exhaled, trying to calm the strange rush inside him, and sat down in the crowd. But while Sarah's smile made his chest flutter, someone else's expression darkened. From the court, Daniel had seen everything: the handshake, the pat on the shoulder, the way Sarah's eyes lit up at Steve's presence. His friends leaned in, smirking. "Careful, Daniel. Looks like that nerd is winning her over. If you don't watch it, he'll snatch Sarah right from under your nose." Daniel's jaw tightened. The idea didn't sit well with him. Not at all. The stadium roared with excitement as the match reached its climax. Daniel played with the same confidence that made him the star of the university team. Every time he touched the ball, Sarah's cheers rang louder than the rest, her bright smile radiating pride. From the sidelines, Steve's gaze lingered on her. He should have been happy to see his friends celebrating, yet something unfamiliar twisted in his chest as he watched Sarah's eyes light up for Daniel. He clenched his fists, confused and restless. The final whistle blew. Daniel had scored the last, decisive goal. The crowd erupted in celebration. Sarah, along with her cheerleading squad, leapt with joy, chanting Daniel's name. Unable to endure the scene any longer, Steve slipped out of the stadium, his frustration simmering though he couldn't explain why. Meanwhile, Sarah rushed to Daniel, congratulating him warmly. But when her eyes searched the stands for Steve, he was nowhere to be found. A flicker of confusion crossed her face, but she brushed it aside, telling herself he must have left early. Later, the canteen buzzed with victory celebrations. Laughter and clinking glasses filled the air until, one by one, the students began to leave. When only Daniel and his close friends remained, the mood shifted. "Looks like Sarah's spending a lot of time with Steve," one of them teased. "Yeah, Daniel, strange isn't it? You can have any girl you want in this university, except her," another added with a smirk. At first, Daniel stayed quiet, pretending not to care. But the relentless jibes soon pierced his patience. His jaw tightened, and with a sudden burst of pride, he declared, "Fine. I'll make Sarah my girlfriend. If I fail, I'll treat all of you to dinner at the most expensive hotel in the city." His friends erupted in laughter, slapping him on the back and accepting the challenge eagerly. But what they didn't realize was that someone else had overheard every word. Hidden in the shadows, Steve's heart sank. His world shifted in that instant. He wasn't ready for this, nor willing to let it happen. Steve slipped quietly out of the canteen before anyone could notice. His steps were quick, almost frantic, as anger burned through his veins. How could Daniel do this to Sarah? The girl who trusted him, who believed in him. But as his heart raced, another question tormented him even more. Why does it hurt me this much? From that day onward, the atmosphere in the university began to shift. Daniel, usually careless and arrogant, suddenly changed. He started showering Sarah with attention, putting in effort that surprised even his closest friends. To everyone else, it looked like genuine affection. But Steve knew the truth. To Daniel, Sarah was not love, she was a wager, a trophy to satisfy his ego. Sarah, however, remained blissfully unaware. She grew more confused with Daniel's sudden devotion, and like always, she confided in Steve. Sitting together in the library, she would smile shyly while describing Daniel's gestures. Steve listened in silence, his chest tightening with every word. He wanted, needed, to tell her the truth. To shatter the illusion before she got hurt. Yet every time her face lit up, he swallowed his words. If she's happy, how can I take that from her? Prom night loomed closer. Students were buzzing with excitement, choosing their partners. Daniel, in front of the whole class, finally asked Sarah to be his date. Her hesitant smile and soft yes broke something inside Steve. One afternoon in the library, Sarah leaned across the table, whispering with a glow in her eyes, "Steve, I think he really likes me. What do you think?" Steve froze. His mouth went dry. For a moment, he could only stare at her before forcing a stiff nod. Sarah, oblivious to the storm in his chest, continued, "By the way, who's your partner?" "Your friend Luna asked me," he muttered, almost reluctantly. "But I haven't replied yet." Before he could react, Sarah snatched his phone and typed a quick yes to Luna. Steve sighed, resigned, while Sarah grinned as though she'd done him a favor. The night of the prom arrived in a whirl of glittering gowns and sharp suits. Steve stood in a corner with Luna, her eyes sparkling with hope. She looked beautiful, but his gaze never left Sarah. She was radiant, laughing at Daniel's side. Her presence enough to make his heart ache. Sarah spotted him and smiled warmly. "Steve, you look handsome tonight." Jealousy flickered in Daniel's eyes. Wrapping an arm possessively around Sarah, he interrupted with a smirk, "Come on, Sarah, let's dance." As they disappeared onto the dance floor, Luna tugged softly at Steve's sleeve. "Shall we dance too?" Steve nodded silently, taking her hand. They swayed together under the soft lights, but his eyes, haunted, longing, remained fixed on Sarah. Luna noticed. She felt the sting of realization but swallowed her pain, respecting the invisible wall around his heart. That night, Steve lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. His mind replayed every moment of Sarah and Daniel together, twisting the knife deeper. He was heartbroken, yet powerless, silencing the love that burned within him. The very next day, whispers spread through the corridors. Steve overheard Daniel boasting to his friends. He was planning to propose to Sarah after their last exam, before graduation. The words sent a jolt of panic through Steve. I can't let this happen. She has to know the truth before it's too late." Clutching the diary he had been filling with his unspoken feelings for Sarah, Steve rushed across campus to find her. His heart pounded with urgency. Determined at last to confess both Daniel's deceit and his own hidden love, but Daniel had already caught wind of Steve's intentions. Realizing his bet, and pride, were in danger, Daniel stormed through the halls, searching for him. His face was hard, his stride sharp. He had only one thought: stop Steve. At any cost.